Well, this was not originally our plan to film something here at the creek. I figured we were trying to film something for the shorts and realized that I had a lot that I wanted to say and like catch up on a little bit about here, document. And I was like, why not give it a go here? As long as we can get comfortable, which we are sort of. We're a little bit contorted funny, have like our one leg shoved up in the corner between the steering wheel and the left side of the car, and the other leg, jammed between the chair and the door. And it just, but it's comfortable. Just in a way for now. Yeah, I don't know. We're still figuring a lot of stuff out. We had cut our hair, and that was, we went off of a YouTube tutorial for, what is it, like the butterfly or wolf cut or whatever, where you separate your hair into 2 ponytails. So we did like, one way up here and then one right in the middle of our forehead, and then chopped them off. And I measured the hair. I think it was over a foot. It might have been like 14 inches. But we we were like, it's so hot out and can't deal with just how much it takes to like care for long hair. We always liked having shorter hair, and I was just like, it's time, we have to do it, especially with like how things have been just constantly changing and having to roll with those punches. I was like, I need my hair to not be one of those things that we worry about right now. So although, it's introduced its own set of things, like having fringe again, that wasn't expected. Because I cut it so short that it gave me bangs, and then they're starting to grow out and get my eyeballs, which we can't stand. And so we keep like, moving them out way, and then it just, I don't know, or sometimes we just fully like pin them back, and then we, have the egghead going on again. And yeah, and then we've been doing these little buns to try and not embrace the full mullet. I don't know. So we look crazy half the time, but that's not anything much different than how it was before. Other than our hair, though. Yeah, we've been contemplating how it's been a little over 4 months, 4.5. It'll be 5 months here in the beginning of September since we moved. And within that first month or few weeks of moving, our work assignment changed slightly, where we started visiting a facility instead of being one-on-one with our people in their home. And it's not the first time that we've done that. It just, we weren't really like prepared for the change and like what it would come with, and there ended up being some things that just, needed to be dealt with. And yeah, we sort of talked about that in the last video we made. We touched on it briefly because it was just kind of consuming at the time, where I felt caught off guard that there was just more issues than I was aware of, because I was there, on my own assignment to take care of my person. And this is like a part of our personal pattern too, I would say, like karmically speaking, where, we go places or we meet people and we find ourselves in the middle of situations where, or even like drug into them, like we don't want this, but like here we are, right? And so we try to do our best in situations like that, where we try to offer whatever kind of help we can. But where we run into that resistance or like further problems come up is when there's, resistance or like tension built between the different parties. And especially when there is no clear communication or like willingness to change and adapt and like go with the flow of things. So we tried our best to work with the situation and to help keep things running smoothly and like keep people accountable. And that is not anywhere in our like job description. It's not something that we are like supposed to do, but we found ourselves in a position where it was like, okay, there are things going on that are not acceptable, and we need some things to change here so that we don't have any incidents or accidents or possible deaths even, right? So, because it can get that serious when we're talking about incidents within healthcare and people's livelihood and wellness and things is all coming into question. So that was a bit of a a rough patch there as we were adjusting. And I feel like more recently we've come into like, we're settling into a better place with that, where people are working better together. And it's brought us out of our own shell in a way where we've been, you know, spending more time outside amongst, you know, the group, and like getting to know other people there, other residents, and, you know, being able to help with them a little bit, build some relationship. And while those are things that I do naturally enjoy, it just wasn't something we were expecting, because again, when the assignment shifted and changed, it wasn't expected to be this long going on. And so, but things happen. And so here we are, and we've been, you know, making the most of it, and, you know, remembering to care for ourselves in the midst of the challenges, taking breaks, and, you know, checking in, asking like, what do we need? And, you know, again, like, what can I do here that isn't doing too much, you know, but like enough, and helping where might be needed, but it's been a lot. Yeah. So, and I feel very passionate. We all have our passions and things, right? But I think particularly when it comes to just unequal dynamics, or when I see people being treated differently, where there's not equality and people aren't getting like basic levels of care and respect and dignity, and that's like the bare minimum. And then another step or level to that is like when people are being mistreated to the point where they're being, you know, neglected and things. It's just, there's, you know, it can get a little wild. And I don't know particularly what it is about like the age that we live in, or just, you know, how much of it is personal and interpersonal about the way that we're individually raised and the things that we learn, and, you know, how we interact with each other. It can get a little hairy. I don't know. It's always strange and interesting to, you know, experience life amongst the world and amongst others. And for the most part, we enjoy it, and we take things in kind. Is that the saying? Like, we learn as we go, always, right? And ultimately, like, our goal is to, if not, you know, make friendships, at the very least, you know, like, have basic level respect, acquaintance with, you know, people that we interact with. So, and we've run into some people we know too, which is like, you know, to be expected after you live in one place for a while, but also it's just like, oh, yeah, sweet surprise. And then same thing, other people knowing each other. It's just been, you know, little pockets of sunshine, I guess, however you want to say that. The camera's getting closer. I have it actually, the fuzz on our Brina, our big ass squishmallow right now. I'm trying to hold it up here. Yeah, what else has been going on? That's been the main thing, is like adjustments at work amongst the people. Because even though I function primarily as an independent caregiver working with people one-on-one, I still care, you know, as a human about the other people around me, like within the environment, within the community. And so when I see things going on that are less than, you know, ideal, less than spectacular, or, you know, what I would consider to be basic levels of care, then that's where, you know, I'm not one to turn a blind eye. Like, I'm going to participate in this, in, you know, as much as I can, in trying to help all parties involved. But again, as we know, that's not always the most well received, especially if, for whatever reason, a person or group of people or like business, you know, is just used to doing things a certain way. It can rub the wrong way, but it's not our first rodeo with things like that. So far things have turned a corner and gotten a bit better, and I'm still very much looking forward to moving on from this current place that we're assigned to, but it is what it is. And we have some other things to look forward to related to work anyways, but yep, that's that. And we've been back at the creek the past couple weeks since school's been back in session and families have kind of resumed their normal lives. And so there's a lot less people, a lot less chaos and noise here because in the summer we'll tend to avoid it as much as we love being here for that very reason. And we'll still drive by sometimes, or like we'll look to go at times, whether that's like early in the morning or late in the evening, but it gets so crazy. So we're very happy to be back and there be a lot less people again, where I can actually like sit in stillness and for the most part quiet and hear the animals and the insects and little critters and sounds and things and it not be disturbed. Yeah. And of course, we've seen our little heron boy. There's two of them, but yeah, we've seen them immediately as soon as we came back. And they let out a long screech, dinosaur-like yell, which we love to hear, although typically it's like can be a sign of their own disturbance, but it's very neat to hear anyways. Yeah, so that's been going on, and some shifts at home too. We're waiting on some other changes that are happening there, and I don't know, there's a lot of things that I can't necessarily talk about when it comes to work, right? Because I work in healthcare, so private health information, it's protected. Like we can't talk about a lot of like specific things. Other than, you know, I can talk about like the fact that I work in healthcare. I can't really go into like the details, nitty-gritty stuff, right? But there's a lot that goes on there. So it's like we have to kind of continually keep that separate. And then similarly with like home life and other things that involve other people, right? Like I want to respect people's like privacy and dignity in the relationships that I have with people. So and this is something that we thought about in, you know, presenting ourselves in a more public space like this, where we don't want to involve anyone that we love and care about and hold close to us for a good matter of time, a long time. And part of that's I'm just very protective over those that I love, but also we want to be able to, you know, create something that is like fully independent and based upon the foundation of ourselves and who we are and what we do and what we love. And as much as the people that I love are a part of that, we feel the need to protect them. And we will do that for a while until we get ourselves, you know, very established here and, you know, our community grows into a very safe, warm, welcoming place to invite more and more people into. So yeah, that's that. I don't know, again, I wasn't necessarily intending to film something long while I was here, but I couldn't quite fit what I wanted to say into a short, so I figured why not do a little update while we're here and I can get somewhat comfy. And yeah, it's quite quiet and just, I don't know, that's all. I don't think I have too much else on my mind. Did I say that I listened to the Deftones album that just came out a couple days ago? Yeah, that's a good one. Just check that out if you like them or that kind of music. Yeah. We were also listening to Tyler's new album, Tyler the Creator. What's the name of that one? I was listening to that the other day. I don't know. Yeah, other than, you know, the creek or our time spent outside, whether that be in the garden or just on walks in random places, we spent a lot of time listening to music and, yeah, writing. There's a kid. I'm like, what are they doing here? It is Sunday, so we can expect a little bit more people here, but I just was like, I don't know if you could probably hear it in the background, especially if you're wearing headphones. They're like yelling out in the background, so it distracted me. Cute though. Yeah. I don't know. What else? I think that's it for now. yeah, a lot of changes other than like work and home would be like relational wise. But we're not necessarily going to go into all of that here. So, but all good things, all positive. Yeah, we've been learning so much, especially since like our Saturn return. Oh, that's the other thing, right? So we've mentioned this very briefly before. We touched on some things, and I had said in the past too that I wanted to make a video specifically dedicated to talking about our Saturn return and like everything that we experienced and like learned from it. And as I had like written about this over the past, 2 years or so, it just kept getting longer and longer. And if I were to make a video, I think it would be like several hours long. And so realistically, if I were to ever do something like that, I would have to really like cut it down. And so we're playing with some other ideas of how to share more of the things that we learned from it, that I really want to, whether that be through writing or like shorter videos touching on specific topics. We really do want to do that, and we have an intention to. It's just been like, there's so much. And we try to be, what's the word? Like, just careful and like conscious and cautious and like the messages that we share and how we share them, why we share them, when even. I think with creativity, it is something that, oh my god, people. I think the creative process isn't something that we should hold ourselves back from in any way particularly, right? Like if we have ideas, we should go ahead and do something with them, act on them in some way, whether that be like simply writing them down without creating something more from it, or fully going on taking that action and making something. But for me personally, I have a tendency to kind of check in with myself, with my own intuition, and with the universe, if you will, God, the higher power, the forces that be. We try to just be conscious and aware of like the information that we're sharing at any given time, and from a place of understanding that not everything needs to be said. Not everything needs to be said at specific times, right? Sometimes it can be more useful or potent, or more powerful, impactful at a separate time than what we might originally think. And yeah, just we're very like conscious of that and aware of that, and we try to tailor all of the things that we do to the things like that, and we enjoy astrology. We've been studying that for quite some time, and understanding the celestials and like how certain celestial events and alignments play into different synchronicities that we might experience, or how we relate to not only ourselves but one another through different world events and things. These are all things that we've been aware of for a long time and studying and applying behind the scenes in our own life. And so we've wanted to bring that forth more into a public space. And we have been in these small ways, but we have much bigger plans for it all. We have a long-term vision. Oh my God. Guys. Good. What the hell is that? That's a big ass bee, bitch. Okay. As we're talking about our long-term vision and plan that's been, slowly playing itself out. Yeah, so that's going on. That'll continue going on, and we're just taking our time with it, working our way. And, through faith, through trust, everything's going according to plan. Everything's all right. I think, that's something that I have to remind myself of sometimes, but also I try to, remind the people around me, especially, in times of struggle, anxiety, or like tension, right? Amidst world events and different things going on where there's a lot of chaos, confusion. We don't always see the full picture of what's happening, what's going on behind the scenes. And I think if we were able to see a bit more beyond the veil, right? And more into the future, perhaps, that we would, have more of an understanding and inner knowing that you hear the buzzing. Oh my God. Oh, they're upside down. Wait. Oh, there he goes. Okay, fixed it. I was gonna tilt them over. It's fine. They're a little stuck though. We're gonna have to help them here in a minute, so it's time for us to go. But yes, everything really is going to be okay, and that can feel like a dismissive statement at times, or like if we ever hear or read someone say that, sometimes it can feel like they have absolutely no clue, like what we're going through or what we're feeling. How could they possibly to say something like that? And it feels that way when in the midst of something that is horrible, awful, right? Like that is really hitting us in our heart space and our emotions, and it's heavy and it hurts. But often, as is, throughout history, across time, that as we move through certain events and past them, that we start to understand things a bit better, even if that's only about ourselves. I think of the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's another one that was on the shelf of one of my old clients, someone I used to care for many years ago. And I've loved the book ever since. And yep, so that's a great one too. That just comes to mind as we're talking about this. Yeah, but just when I say that, right, it comes from a place of my own experience, but also looking at it from a broader lens of life as a whole, right, and humanity overall, and the Earth's evolution and our collective well-being, right, that things have been rough, but they will and do get better, and they are in ways that we may not be able to currently see, but they are. All right. That's all. I feel like I need to tell you I love you again, as I always do. That's another thing we were going to talk about, was our Venus dominance, our Pluto and Venus dominance, because I think we're not going to get into all of that right now, but yes, we are very like love focused in a lot of things that we do. We always are telling people that we love them, and again, that has a lot to do with us being Venus dominant, and we've been that way our whole lives, just very like heart-centered, and it's how we are. So yes, I love you. All right, bye bye.